Greetings. My name is Christion Ty Edwards. My show is called The Sad Life of a Happy Man. If you'd like to hear more about it, continue on and listen to this talk. I've wanted to be an actor since I was 5 years old. I sort of got my start in my dad's big master bedroom, watching movies from end to end and memorizing them and then reenacting them for my family. So those are some of my earliest memories of storytelling in that way. And so it was kind of, in a way, said to me at a very young age, hey, you should be an actor. And at that time, I had no idea what that truly meant. I was 5. But then as I got older, I started to learn about the way that you kind of do that is through theater or through putting on plays. And so around the time middle school came around, I actually started to do more of that. And then that only exploded by the time I went into high school. Just the rest is kind of history on through majoring in it in college and then making it my career. So yeah, so I guess in essence, I've known about it and I wanted to be a part of it since a very young age. And especially when I started to do more of the actual live performance and storytelling in that way. Uh, in my like middle school and into high school years, there was just something about it that captivated me from the start. And originally, I had all these thoughts that were kind of put into me by family, external, whatever, about like fame, fortune, what it means to like be in Hollywood and what all of that means. Um, and then I figured out that to acting as a whole, but especially in the theater, um, there's so much more to it than that, and there's so much deeper than that. It's um, a lot of feelings I can't even put into words. So yeah, yeah, it captivated me. It's an interesting question, whether or not falling in love with writing and finding kind of an obsession with it. That's a question I constantly grapple with because there are some days where I would say that I absolutely love writing, and it's a way of getting things onto the page so that then I can take some of the feeling off of me. And so maybe it'll never be read, maybe it will be read. And then in terms of dramatic literature, it'll be put on, it'll be shared with a community, it'll be shared with an audience. And then there are other days where I say that I absolutely hate writing. Um, and I think that shows up for many reasons. I, for the life of me, can't remember the name of the author right now, but I heard an author speak at my university, I think even after I graduated. Uh, and he was a pretty prominent writer and also a jazz musician. And something that he said to me really has stuck with me for a while. And he said that writing is not, for him, writing is not enjoyable, but he has to do it in order to take his pain away. And that's actually kind of a big topic, especially early on in my show. Um, the idea of creating art and telling stories uh, that is manifested out of pain or that takes pain away. Yeah, it's a very interesting question. I've always been a strong writer, and that's been true ever since I was small and since elementary school. I've always been a reader and a writer that was at least 2 grade levels above where I was in school. Um, and always just seem to have creative ideas. My imagination has always been one that runs wild. So, though it's sometimes hard to sit down and actually do the thing, that's always the hardest part. Um, I don't think I ever have a shortage of ideas. So that's useful. Yeah, I think the experience of theater and experiencing live performance is so unique for the actor and the audience because it's truly one of the few, if not the medium, in which we can have that real time exchange of energy, exchange of thought, exchange of emotion. Uh, it's not like a film where you could rewatch the same exact thing over and over again, or a song that's recorded where you could listen to the same exact thing over and over again. If you were to go to the same Broadway show or a little underground thing happening here, like in DC, uh, you would see the same show, but you would see a different show every single night. Uh, to me, theater, and one of the most beautiful things about theater is that um, it's mirroring of everyday life, or it's mirroring of life itself, and that includes its fleeting nature. It's here one moment, and then it's gone the next, and the moment that we just had will never exist again. It's the one chance we have to have this moment exactly how it is. Um, and there's something really, really beautiful about that. And I think if we live our lives with that in mind, life becomes a lot more beautiful than perhaps we think it is on the normal day to day. I think theater is a powerful reminder of that. Uh, the fleeting nature, the beauty, and the fragility of life. Um, and it's a place where we can all commune and gather to hear a story, and that's a tradition as old as time. Um, yeah, so I think that's a really beautiful thing. The idea behind the sad life of a happy man has been with me been with me for a long time. Uh, so I've had sort of the desire or the itch to scratch, if you will, to perform a solo show, a one man show for a long time. I'd say at the very least, excuse me, I'd say at the very least when I was a freshman in college, uh, and then sort of through my life in college, I uh, while there were many great things that happened, I also struggled greatly with depression and anxiety, and also started going to therapy for the first time and learned a lot about myself and how to navigate the world. And my senior year was especially hard. My senior year was actually kind of hell. Uh, and during my senior year, I took an independent study with a professor I admire very much. And that independent study, and this is the story I tell everybody, the independent study went up in flames, ended in total disaster, just did not end well. But what came out of it was the very first edition, the very first draft of my show, The Sad Life of a Happy Man. Uh, and it was a one act version. I had written it as if I could clone myself, or just a bunch of different actors could play the different roles, but each of the different characters were written to be different pieces of me. They make up different pieces of who I am. Um, yeah, and I think in the moment, pretty much, I kind of thought to myself, yeah, I'm going to turn this into a solo show one day. Um, and so it kind of sat fallow until 2020. And then when we were in quarantine, uh, yeah, a friend of mine back here from DC, the DC area, was doing an online intensive on creating your own solo show, kind of from start to finish, the whole writing to performing, producing, all that stuff. Um, and it kind of happened at the perfect time. And I was like, I think this needs to, I think this needs to finally go somewhere. Um, and in a time where we were, I think, getting to reflect on a lot individually and personally and collectively as a nation and as a world, um, it just felt like, okay, this is the time for this to come to life. And so, like, yeah, so there was a part of me that just had to dive in. The play really is about five different pieces of myself kind of coming to terms with each other. Um, so if we had to label a protagonist or a main character, that character is called the man, and we're seeing the man's journey from the start of the show to the end of the show. And the man has given himself the task to create a piece of art, whatever that turns out to be. And the other parts of him that are in the show, and the other parts of me, other than the man, are the artist, the fraud, the clown, and the human being. And so, and exploring how each of those characters are different from each other and how they do different things from each other. Um, and so, if the man can create a piece of art without the artist, without, the fraud needing to, serve his purpose and just other stuff like that, um, then he knows that he's meant for something. His life has purpose. Um, and he's racing a clock. And if that clock runs out and he can't create anything in that time, um, then his life ends. Um, so it kind of weaves and navigates through different moments of that. Uh, and it's an interesting thing to write a show that takes place inside your own mind. So can get a little wild at times. Uh, but yeah, that's sort of the main sort of the main journey that we take and that we see being taken in this show. But yeah, it always just kind of it always felt right. It just felt like the move. I just felt called to do it. I think what I want the audience to most get out of my play is to get to get a glimpse of even just a glimpse or a glimmer, a even a slight feeling of what it's like uh, to be someone who gets very lost, and to see at least a little bit of how that journey can feel through theater, and what that can look like even on the inside through theater, um, and to people who perhaps are on or have been on a similar journey to mine with their mental health, with their feelings about their purpose, their existence, their meaning, um, their worthiness, their self love, their lack of self love, whatever it might be. Um, those who see a bit of their story, or at least something they can connect to in that way in this show. Um, a reminder, or perhaps the very first lesson ever to them that they are not alone, that they are not the only ones who feel that way, and that a lot of healing, at the end of the day, a lot of healing can come from exploring your emotions and exploring your own story. A lot of healing can come from storytelling. There's a whole sort of movement I'm doing with this show called the Storytelling Heals movement. Um, and it's very much in its infancy right now, but it's about, uh, but at its core, it's about, healing ourselves and perhaps healing the world by using story and through story, and just how powerful that can be. Um, so yeah, I want folks to know perhaps a little bit of what it's like, and other folks to know, um, that, yeah, they're not alone, and they're not the only ones who feel this, um, and that whatever sort of situation they might be in terms of how they're feeling, where their life is, that is not a permanent like stop. That is just a another, even if it's huge, it's just another stop on the journey, on the big road trip of life, um, and that there's more to come, and that um, they can make it to the other side. Well, I think people must go to my show because it's not just a story that I've been told needs to be told, and that can connect to lots of different people, lots of different experiences. But it's also a mission. So for as long as I perform my show, um, for my lifetime, for as long as I decide to perform it. Half of all the profits that would be made from this show are going to get donated to a mental health charity organization foundation that's doing really, really awesome and impactful and like meaningful work in the worlds of mental health awareness, suicide prevention, and overall mental wellness. I'm supporting the JED Foundation, JED Foundation, and they're a foundation that supports struggling teens and young adults who are struggling with mental health issues. So I think folks must see my show for the story that it is, but also to be a part of the mission, to be a part of the cause, to be a part of the Storytelling Heals movement in its very first hurrah, its very first foray into existence. Um, because they can make a direct impact not only on my life from supporting my show and seeing uh, seeing my show and hearing the story, uh, but also they can, with the purchase of a ticket, they could uh, have a direct impact on somebody who really needs help. um, in the movement as a whole. So yeah, I think it's very important. I think it's a very important thing that this story gets out there and this movement keeps moving and keeps growing. Yeah, yeah. So vital, so important. Any sort of touring show, anything like that, and out of town are coming in to a community to put on anything, any sort of production. It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of dedication, and the reality is it takes a lot of money. And so, being a professional working artist, money is not the most copious thing all the time. So I rely heavily, greatly on the generous gifts that are given to me by the folks that I'm connected with and that I get connected with through the work that I do to get this campaign out there. If it were not for the funds that I've collected and the generous people who want to be a part of the Storytelling Heals movement and the mission and to support the cause, um, and help me support the Jed Foundation and to keep this thing going um, for a lifetime, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it without the generous giving of family, of friends, of complete strangers, of organizations. Um, yeah, it simply wouldn't happen. Um, and so, for all the folks who have donated, who have given a gift, and who will continue to, and who want to be a part of the cause and a part of the mission, part of the movement. Um, yeah, I can only be eternally grateful. But yeah, short answer is if people don't help or give, it simply doesn't happen. And that's kind of what I feel like I'm doing. I'm sharing a piece of my soul with whoever decides to come and see it. And I hope many folks do come and see it because I think story and the impact and the power of story is needed more than ever today. Um, and I think my show can at least be a little shred of that. Um, and I've been told, I keep being told that it can, it's a that it can move people. And so I think I have to finally have the security in myself to believe that. My name is Christion Ty Edwards. My show is called The Sad Life of a Happy Man. I would love to see any and all of y'all there. And remember that you're not only supporting me when you come see the show, you're supporting the Jed Foundation, you're supporting the Storytelling Heals movement, you're becoming a part of the movement for mental health awareness, suicide prevention, and making a difference in the lives of those who are struggling and most often struggling in silence. So yeah, I would be truly honored. I'd be truly honored to see all y'all in the audience.